Why does college feel like it's a scam? For most people, the answer to that question is very simple. It no longer feels like the value that college promises is something that is actually delivered. But it's got to be more involved than that. Why is the value that was promised been diminished so greatly? Let's dive into it. So let's start with the obvious: cost. Year after year, the cost of college tuition goes up and up and up. Now, for the most part, the cost issue can be narrowed down to one decision, and that is the decision that the government made to federally guarantee the loans of borrowers. We might not always like capitalism, but there's a few things that capitalism does well. One of those things is the ability to reduce costs through competition. If you have several businesses competing for you as a customer, they have to do something that makes you give them your money over the other businesses. And the main way they can do that is value. Usually you drive value by providing more at a lower cost. But see, in the mechanism of colleges, that doesn't really happen because the colleges all know where their income source really comes from. It's not you, it's the government. And because most people believe the government's always good for it, because they're funded by the taxpayers, prices will continue to go up, even when the value proposition is less attractive. Now, there are some ways around this. You could start at a community college, get your general electives out of the way, and then later on transition to a more traditional four-year institution. But even that solution rarely occurs, and that actually leads me to my next reason why college seems a little scammy: the college pipeline. If you're over the age of 30 like I am, you might remember times in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade where colleges and high schools would actually come and schedule visits to talk to you about the importance of higher education. I mean, they're just giving us information about the different career paths we can take, right? But looking back, I realize now that there was always an implication buried inside of these visits. And that implication was that to not go to college was to willingly sign up for a life of despair. I mean, think about all the stats they would show in class meetings like that, about how much more money individuals who had a college degree would make over those who didn't, about how people who had college degrees were far more likely to get jobs than people who didn't. How many of us got any information on things like trades? I truly believe now, looking back on those visits, that the purpose was to embed in the psychology of children early that to not go to college was to sign up to be part of the lesser class of society. I mean, if you don't go, you're basically a failure. That's what we were being taught. Even when you think back to how people treated you if you got bad scores on a standardized test, it always came with the implication that you were less than, not because you tested poorly or didn't learn anything, but because you wouldn't be able to get into college. Essentially, this made us all think that all positive roads led to college. And if you weren't going to college, then clearly you weren't on a positive road. Most of us adults now understand that's not necessarily the case, but that's kind of the point. You have to be an adult and have the wisdom to understand that there are other paths outside of the ones that have been directly given to you. And that leads me to my next reason college seems a little scammy. Not everyone really needs to go to college. Again, you would have had to have been shown successful paths that don't involve college to even consider this. But there are a lot of professions that you can get into that don't require a college degree and don't require a lot of debt. Again, I'll go back to the trades. I don't think everyone's necessarily cut out for it, but it's just a primary example of skill sets that you can learn that a lot of us aren't even aware of because we were force-fed the college path, and that's all. But there are also small business owners as well: landscapers, construction workers, hairdressers, all individuals who could benefit from some college courses, sure, but don't necessarily need a full four-year degree. But unless you saw examples of people like that in your childhood as you grew up, you didn't think that that was even something that was attainable. I know I sure didn't. And when you pair that with having parents who also don't fully understand the full cost-benefit analysis that needs to be done on something as big of an investment as college, and instead of just telling you, go to college, go to college, go to college, it then becomes understandable why so many young people sign up for 4 years at an institution without any real thought behind what the market will bear for the information that they're taking in. With that much directional programming, I wouldn't expect fully grown individuals to make good decisions. And that quite nicely brings me to my next point, which is most of us are far too young to be deciding what we're going to do with the rest of our lives at 18. All of these other things I've listed stem from this issue. Think about the kind of decisions you were making at 18. Did you really understand what you were signing when you signed up for student loans? I know what I thought. Oh yeah, interest. I'll pay that back when I've got a nice cushy job and I'm rich. But those payments hit different when I got out of college. I have to say, The best argument that can be made for why college is somewhat scammy and predatory is that we aren't allowed to drink in this country. We aren't allowed to rent cars in this country at the age of 18, but we can sign up for a lifetime of debt, and that debt is federally guaranteed. There's nothing we can do to get rid of it. Yeah, like that's a scam. No, I'm not saying that college is always a scam and nothing good can be gained from it. But what I am saying is that if the only reason you are going to college is that you've been convinced that college is the only path to success, or that you're missing out on some serious life experience if you don't go, then yes, you are, in a sense, being scammed. Don't get me wrong, I met some of my best friends in college. I met my wife in college. But both of us agree, if we had to do it over again and make the decision based purely on the financials and what it actually brought in value to our lives, we would have probably considered things a lot more carefully. What I want you to get from this video is not that college is bad, but that you need to really consider what you want out of your life before you go. And if you're not sure, don't just go because other people are telling you to go. There's absolutely nothing wrong with taking some years and working and considering what it is you really want to go after. College is still going to be there when you're 25 or 26, because this idea that essentially children with no real life experience are going to be able to make the best decisions for themselves on average, it's just not true. Most of the people that need to get financial aid probably don't have enough guidance in their lives to begin with to be able to really take on this decision seriously. I know that I didn't, even though my mom did the best that she could. She didn't actually know what we were getting ourselves into. And the last thing you want is a mountain of debt that is unbankruptable because you made a decision based on what everyone else was telling you to do. So like all things, don't let your decisions make the things you get involved in scammy. Take the time to really think through whether you're prepared enough to make the kind of decision with this much gravity. And if you're not, it's okay to just prolong the decision. I promise you, college isn't going anywhere, especially considering the taxpayers are funding it. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Let me know what you think about college being scammy in the comments. I'll talk to you later.